Okay, let's go ahead and open up the doors, and that's a sneak peek of somebody I don't want you to see. Yeah, there we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Becca Dukes, and as the hostess of Daily with Doc, it is my honor and privilege to be able to bring to you empowering information that puts more tools in your toolbox so that you also can have a better health journey towards optimal health. So, folks, if you don't know it already, what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, what you have in your environments actually affects your health. And today we are going to be talking about more things that you can put in your mouth that are yummy and tasty with our special guest. And this is an exclusive debut interview, not to make him nervous. He's going to do absolutely fantastic, fabulous, because he is just a brilliant young man that I'm honored that he agreed to come with us or come on with us daily with Doc. So before we get started with the actual interview, I just want to welcome everybody out on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Simplecast, Riverside FM, Radio Public, Castbox, Google Podcast, Instagram, Patreon, iHeart, Amazon Music, and the list keeps growing and growing. I am so thankful that we are able to meet people where they're at. So if you are watching us, whether it's a live stream or a replay, make sure that you want to subscribe to our channel and follow us. Two, if there's an option to comment, say hello. Let us know what country or state you are plugging in from. And most of all, share a celebration. Share your favorite emoji, your favorite little icon with us. So we'd love to make it fun and just keep things light. As For a Better You Too has put up the little chef logo, as I did put out a little bit of advertising, letting people know that today we have with us the one and only, and you've heard Dr. Wallach talk about this book, okay? Dr. Wallach's Cooking Without the Bad Foods by Chef Norman Goodies. And that's who we have on the show with us. So, Chef Norman, thank you so much for joining us. How are
And
you
thank
today?
you. I'm doing great today.
Fantastic. Well, so we think chef, we think, the big white hat,
We
white
do.
coat, and very stern and serious. But through my conversations with you and getting to know you, you're actually a really fun guy.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I have worn the hat and the coat for 20 years, and through this journey that I'm on and the cookbook that I wrote, I'm able to not put the chef hat and the coat back on, but I still do try and bring the simple techniques that I've learned and just trying to teach people to be healthy and to cook well.
So, what got you into cooking in the first place?
What got me into cooking was in high school. Our high school had a program, a culinary program, and I met my mentor that at the time wasn't my mentor, but uh, it was probably in grade 10. And then I just continued to keep cooking. And then he introduced to me that maybe this might be a profession that you want to pursue because I'll never go hungry. So at the time, I thought that was a great idea that I'd never be able to go hungry. And looking back at it, where cooking has taken me to many places from, Manitoba up north to the States to Costa Rica, just cooking, I believe it was a great choice.
Now, as we were visiting before, you've actually done some competitions with your
Yes.
cooking, which
Yes.
then got you scholarship into culinary schools.
Yep, that is
Did I got
correct.
the order right?
Yep, that is correct. At George Brown College in downtown Toronto. It's a good culinary school. I believe it's the best. There's a lot of opinions that people believe that it's not. A little biased. I am an alumni there. So, but George Brown for culinary cooking, I would say, is probably the best.
Now, my next question is, have you always been gluten-free and cooking without the bad foods?
No, no. I went many years, um, knowing the difference that stuff is bad, but convenience, financial situations, time management,
Mhm.
and not really knowing Dr. Wallach's message. Um, I took the product, but I only knew about one product. And then when I found out about the rest of the products in the actual program, and when I did it, it actually improved my life by losing copious amounts of weight and enjoying my life better. And I am now gluten free and I am an advocate for it. And I believe it just makes your quality of life better, like energy, weight wise, health.
So tell us a little bit about your health journey. So you've just shared that you've lost copious amounts. What does copious mean to you? And
Okay.
just for those of you who are listening, Toronto is not in the United States. We do go international, and you can tell by the little hint of Canadian that he is from Canada, which I think is absolutely fantastic because he's been able to do what he has done with Dr. Wallach's message across borders and now published and worldwide. So, Andrew, Chef Norman, share with us more about your actual health journey.
Well, my health journey started about probably about 4 years ago. I have a friend, Ryan Alexander. He also publishes books.
Mhm.
We purchased a house far from the city, and the plan was that we were gonna write a cookbook, and then also on top of that, I exited out of my life insurance policy, and I got my kickback for that. And I decided in my mind that I'm gonna just buy longevity products, try the best to stay off of 12 bad foods. And at the beginning, it was in my mind, I really had to set that I was going to do this because it is a lifestyle change. And with cashing out my life insurance policy to believe that I wasn't going to die before 71, and I went full throttle with it. I started experimenting a lot because everybody, me and Ryan, were both gluten free. We're both off the 12 bad foods. I had to rearrange a lot of the textures in the food and really retrain myself through everything that I had learned. So I went back to my college textbooks and I just started prepping recipes from that. And then the idea was thrown that we should put all the recipes together and make a textbook for this. And so at the beginning, I didn't take it too serious. And then after I lost 80 pounds, I just went with it. People were seeing me in a different light. It brought a different feeling to me. Like I was always me, but the weight on me held me back, I guess, in views of people how they saw you. And yeah, it just came to be that I'm Dr. Joe Wallach's message really helped me, and I wanted to give something back to the people that are already in this community. And there wasn't a cookbook out there, so we wrote the cookbook. We make videos, put them on YouTube, and Instagram really was what blew us up for making videos. And I just through all this process, I just found the purpose. My purpose in life is to teach people how to cook
Mhm.
because you have to eat 3 times a day. I don't. You can eat 3 times a day. You can fast too if you like, but you have to eat every day. and you should control what you put into your food. And you can make mostly everything without the chemicals that they put in it, because that the process is to preserve, right? Most of the chemicals put in our food are to preserve, and I really just want to bring it back to a style of home style, grandma's cooking, cooking with the wood ash. Dr. Wallach does talk about this, and I just I fell in love with cooking again, and it's just taken me to places I never believed that it could. And I yeah, I just love food, and I like talking about it too. So this is just a good setup for me, and I like it a lot.
Well, the sky is the limit. Actually, we get in our own ways,
Yeah.
but the sky is the limit. And I love the fact that you have done the experimenting, you fell in love with cooking again, and wrote this amazing book. How many recipes are in this? Do you know exactly?
The second edition has over 500.
And the first
The
edition,
first edition has about 375.
wow. So 375, that's a lot. You don't waste any space with pictures. It's recipe and recipes and recipes. I love how you've broken it down into different categories, or the beef recipes are all together, pork recipes, chicken recipes, main dishes, all that. So, and then you have a full complete index in the back. So there's even carrot cake in here, folks, and cinnamon rolls. Okay. So those are some of the things that I used to make often before learning about gluten, but I was grinding my own wheat and it was organic. So you've had to learn how to adjust the flours when it comes to baking.
Yes, gluten-free baking is probably the most difficult to get the right textures and elasticity in the doughs. But with a little bit of practice and time, the sky is the limit. And for the cookbook not having pictures, I didn't really want people to focus on the pictures. I want you to focus on the basic set of skills, and then you can bring any other option that you would like into it. We set the basics, and then you can add anything you want to it.
Now, you had said that baking was the most, probably the most challenging in getting those textures. Do you have any hints to share with us when it comes to baking, as far as flours, anything like that?
Well, trial and error will get you through most of it. You After using a bunch of gluten-free flours, you will determine which you like the most, which reacts. And I'm not paid sponsor, but I do use Bob Red Mills. I think they put great detail into like collecting their ingredients and keeping it gluten-free. And so their baking flour 1-to-1 or King Arthur's 1-to-1, they almost react the same, but the best thing I like about it is it's a clean tasting flour. You won't taste the flour inside the cooking when you do cook with it, or if you bake with it.
I know some of them use garbanzo beans, and you can definitely taste the garbanzo beans in for the flour. And
Yes, and
yeah,
they also put chickpeas too with the garbanzo beans, and yes, you can taste it. That's an all-purpose flour that they make with Bob Red Mills, has both of those ingredients in it. But I do actually like the taste that it has. I don't use it so much for baking because it will turn, because those beans are in it, they will turn the color of your baking goods. But
mm.
for cooking, I love it. Like to make roux, to thicken your sauces, it's perfect. It works just like it. Cornstarch, perfect uh tip is that tapioca starch is exactly the same. And if you overdo it with cornstarch or you overdo it with tapioca starch, it has the same effect and taste, really.
So do you have a preference over cornstarch and tapioca starch, since we're talking about that, and roux and gravies, things,
So
to add as thickeners?
Yes, I don't use cornstarch. Um, the gut, they just make too much corn, and it's the GMO. I can't guarantee what corn they're grinding up. And when I first got into this, Dr. Glidden, he didn't like corn, so I just went on what he said. So when I was rewriting all my recipes, I had to figure out that I couldn't use cornstarch. So I haven't used cornstarch in any of my recipes. So if I have to use cornstarch, the Amazon Prime's a wonderful thing too, right? So,
Right.
right.
Great,
So
great delivery.
yeah,
But yeah, tapioca starch. I love tapioca. Makes for a nice substitute. And a lot of people don't realize that, tapioca does come in a starch. It is a thickener, not just for tapioca pudding. They actually make it in a powder. Um, and that's what you're referring to, correct?
yes is the powder. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wait.
the next question we get a lot is how can you bake and cook without bottled oils?
Well, before bottled oils, we all used either animal fats, butter. Butter's been around a lot longer than bottled oil ever has been, or the milk solids off the top when you would milk your cows and that. Uh, the whole oil, I never really trusted it when I was a little kid. Like you shake oil in water and never ever emulsifies into it. Our bodies are more water. Um, yeah, I would just go back, go back in time and how they used to do it, right? Where they
Hmm.
would cut the butter into the flour. It acts all the same. Most ingredients it call for flour. I mean butter. They don't call for oils in it. Oil is just the new way to. Well, the Mediterranean diet is where they introduced oil was good for us. And I just if like yeah, like an example where baking and oil isn't necessary. I can't really think of one besides people who used to coat it over top of the pizza dough after you make pizza dough. Like I worked at a pizza shop and they would brush olive oil over top of their dough so that it wouldn't get hard and staly. But
Hmm.
for baking, yeah, I can't think of oil being used more over. Cooking, oil is overly used. It's recommended. Everybody recommends oil because it doesn't burn. And you can be lazy with it and you can just put a pan with oil in it and it won't smoke unless you heat it real and it will flash up. But I think we just took away for convenience and fast, and that's how we got to using seed oils and vegetable oils and things I never thought oil would ever come out of. And
Right. You think
it's
about it, it's
been
like,
a
how do you,
hard it's been hard to like incorporate that out of my diet, but once I did, it just depends on how you want to feel. And
yeah.
there's
I mean, if you feel crummy and you want to continue to feel crummy, then continue to eat the way you're eating, right?
that's correct.
But
And
if you want to feel great, willing to make some changes, there's options too.
yes, yes, lots of
What
lots
you
of
can
options out there. Um, like if you're really lazy, then I like and you're scared of burning butter because burned butter is bad for us as well. I would say use like beef tallow, which is also lard, but watch it because they make a synthetic lard too, which is not animal based, and it's a little tricky. But beef tallow probably has the highest burn point, and you can get away with a little bit less watching it. And I think like that's what something I'm trying to put into it is you have to love the food that you're cooking because you are eating this. And before when I didn't cook for people, I kind of lost my way in cooking. I was just lazy. I just cook whatever I want. But when you're actually cooking for other people, you have to put love into it, and people can tell the difference that there is love in your food. And take your time and enjoy the process of cooking. Smell the aromas, and enjoy it. Want to get that perfect taste out of it.
Absolutely. Now, when we're cooking with butter and we need to melt it or doing any type of cooking with butter, are there any hints like temperatures to keep it from burning, anything like that that you would recommend?
Yeah, so the simplest thing that I do, and it's in the book, is if anything calls for like, let's say you find a recipe you want to try it, and it always will say like at the end, like let's say 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons of oil. Usually for that melting the butter, I usually have a double boiler, which is just a pot of water with a pot on top, and you'll put your butter in it, your 2 tablespoons of butter, it melts, perfect temperature, and then you can pour it into any recipe that you want. If you want to go one step above it, you can melt butter down and then keep melting it and it will create milk solids on top. When you remove that, you now have clarified butter. Now clarified butter it's good because it can go extremely high temperatures. Not extreme, but hot, way higher, almost like 60 degrees higher than regular butter. So you won't burn it. So if you're concerned about burning your butter, you can try ghee, but ghee is clarified butter, but it's regional. And that's why it's called ghee. And it has a little bit of a nuttier flavor,
Hmm.
but it also is a perfect option if at the same time, if you want to cook at a higher temperature, ghee or clarified butter, that solves the problem right there.
Now, you mentioned 60 degrees higher. Is that Fahrenheit or Celsius?
I believe it is
Celsius,
fair.
I think.
I would say Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit? Okay. I'm
Yeah,
just
but
checking since we're working with different, units of
yes,
measurement here.
it does throw me off. But I have in the book, it does have all of them laid out very, very like Fahrenheit and Celsius in every recipe. I made sure we went through and did that for everyone. If you're from the UK or if you're from United States, in Canada we do use Celsius, so it yeah, it don't quote me on 60, but it can go a lot higher than butter. Butter can go 300 Fahrenheit to 305, where I believe clarified butter can go in almost into the fours. And these are flash points, right? This is you never want to ever heat your butter until it sets on fire in your pan. The
And I'm
smoke
glad that you
that
said that because that's what flash means, folks. It
yeah,
starts a
flash and
fire.
smoke point is where whatever liquid you're cooking will light on fire. And top best advice I can ever do not put flour in it. Just put baking soda, please.
Oh, if it does catch on fire.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because the flour's gonna catch on fire.
Yeah.
It'll
Well, you've been when you've been in a
yeah.
restaurant for 20 years, you've seen some crazy things.
Well, we have lots of questions.
Okay.
And so one of the questions is with the second edition of the book, is it an additional 500 recipes or total 500 recipes? Because if we're looking at the edition one, you add
Yeah.
500, then you're looking at close to
So the
what?
first edition, when we put it out, it obviously was our first cookbook, and we tried our best, but we made a few mistakes in it. So what we did is after we took all our criticism from it and corrective criticism, we then fixed the problems and then added in the more recipes that everybody was asking us about so that we could bring more value to the book.
Mhm.
So it's a total of 500. And yeah, it's a total 500 in the book. And it's a great textbook to start. I'm not done yet. I have lots of recipes still to do, and I will be releasing more cookbooks in the future with different subject titles.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because I know you're always writing, always taking mental notes and then putting it down on paper, computer. And that's just the sign of a good author, right? Never stop thinking, never stop growing and growth. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed with what you've done and put into the cookbook. We have lots of people that are. We've got Another comment here, just learning to cook for real this year, as fast food was my diet for decades. Another person is, um, well, let's see, we'll go to another. Is it okay to fry with animal fat? Now, Dr. Wallach says no fried foods. What designates or determines what a fried food is? Is it based on the temperature that the food is cooked in? Or what can you share on that?
Fried food, it's the vegetable oil being at the vegetable oil is what's killing you. You can deep fry. What is the sense of deep fried? Like submerged in oil and cooked,
Submerged in oil and crispy.
crispy. Yeah, you will get it crispy, but it will take time. And you might not be able to submerge it completely because tallow and animal fats are a lot more expensive than regular bottle of vegetable oil. So with the deep frying you can, it is a lot more expensive. And it comes right down to the temperature point. You won't it like I've deep fried in the sense with vegetable oil, and I mean not vegetable oil, with animal fats, and you just have to keep the temperature at up 325, and then you might have to flip your what you're deep frying. If it's french fries that you're looking for, you can bake them. It gives you almost the same texture and the crunch to it. It just takes longer. But
So adding,
if you're dying for the fried chicken, my personal I would cook it in a cast iron pan and just to only flip it once. If you do want to see it done, I have done it in on my Notice Not Us Foods YouTube account or Not Us Foods on Instagram. You can go through it. I've done about 150 videos from the cookbook,
hmm,
and you can watch how I do it. I've never yet deep fried in like I've never gotten enough lard to actually like deep fry anything. But if you want to, you can. You just have to watch the temperature and not burn your food. Peel the skins off your potato, and you could probably do it. But it really
well,
depends on what they're trying to cook. I don't.
yeah, I prefer baking over trying to do anything fried.
Yeah,
Because Dr. Wellach says absolutely no fried foods. And there's a reason why he says that, folks. When you heat those oils to a certain temperature and then you bring your food to this crispy state, it's converting those molecules into acrylamides. And acrylamides have been proven, if you go look on pubmed.gov, they've been proven to be linked with the C word and destroying the cells within the body. So I would just stay away from that whole fried food arena and focus on baking because baking is pretty amazing. But definitely those lower temperatures are very important too when cooking our food. I have another question here where Joe wants to know, how do I know if my butter is burned?
it will turn brown or black and get solid chunks in it. If you
Yes.
don't have enough butter, you can smell burned butter as soon as it burns. The only way you would burn butter is if you aren't paying attention or you heat your pan too high and you throw it in and it sizzles away. There is a fine line. There is something in cooking where we do browning butter. And I tried it and I temperature checked it, and it's a fine line, and I would personally just stay away from it because it is risking the fact that you're burning the fat solubles in the butter, and that is what's also causing the problem. Like with fried foods, once you get a temperature too high, it does create acrylamines that can hurt you. And back to the fried food stuff. Most people, what they want to replicate is KFC. Unfortunately, KFC doesn't even deep fry their food. They cook them in pressure cookers, and they bring the heat up to 450. And that's why it's a problem. And it's pressurized. So it goes through all the meat and burnt and like just cooks it super fast, like 12 minutes for like 500 pieces of chicken. That is the problem, is the temperature and people, the convenience, right?
Mhm.
The deep frying will take you a longer time if you do it. And like I say, you'll have to flip over your items because you might not have enough oil, or but submerge in it. Like it's just you're right. Deep frying, I would stick to baking or pan frying to get that same results. Where you wouldn't use butter, you would let the fats from the actual animal, like chicken, the skin has the most fat in it. So when you're face side down cooking it, that will render out the fat, but you keep it at a temperature where it doesn't burn it, but it does make it a nice crisp.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I know temperature plays a lot in the molecules all around us, whether it's in our food or just substances around us. As you take something, you add enough heat, it's going to melt, it's going to convert, it's going to burn, and turn into things we definitely don't want to put in our bodies. That's for sure. And we have another question. How about arrowroot powder as a substitute for cornstarch?
I have
Have you
heard of
ever?
arrowroot. I haven't gotten it individually, but I have used it with, it is in with lots of gluten-free flours. And I've heard it works amazing and people actually like it. I haven't yet experimented too much with it by itself, but I can't I will eventually get to it. Yeah, you could definitely use that as a substitute for cornstarch.
All right, thank you so much for that. Now, tell us a little bit. You had started to tell us about, that concept of oil and our bodies being 90% water and them not emulsifying, meaning they don't mix, they don't blend together. Can you share a little more about your thought on bottled oils and within the body and what you've learned from Dr. Wallach?
Yes. What I learned from Dr. Wallach is that so the oils in bottles, the reason why they're real, like they're bad, is because it is rancid, because it's oxidized oil. And oxidization we know causes problems inside of us. And but the whole thing with the oil not mixing with the water was just me being young, like just common sense, you know. Yeah, well, margarine was the big thing that Dr. Joe Wallach really got me on, is that it was used as a submarine diesel lubricant and to lubricate missiles. And when big pharma people and big companies get involved, it's not good. And if you want, Dr. Wallach does speak about that, and he knows all the facts. Fortunately, I'm not a doctor. I just work with food and food science a little bit, but yeah, I the oils, I would just stay away, because they make oils out of things that you would never think oil would ever come out of. And most, like canola oil, is corn. It's just corn oil, and it's just it's super cheap, and it just doesn't seem, it doesn't have real taste to it. I don't miss olive oil at all, but put packed in a bottle with that little bit of oxygen at the top just oxidizes the whole bottle, which is rancid. And you don't want to be eating rancid things. You don't want to be consuming them, even though they tell us it's healthy. I don't believe them. And that's really just the big thing about the oil. Like I was glad that it was out of my life, and I feel great because of it.
I could never get past the smell of olive oil being good for me. Just the smell of it turned my stomach. As I've never been able to get past the smell of it. So I was so thankful whenever I heard that it was bad for me, because then I could use it as justification of not cooking with it for my family. So it worked for me. And folks, we are talking today with Chef Norman Goodies, who is the author of the book, Dr. Wallach's Cooking Without the Bad Foods. You can get this book from drjwallach.com. That is drjwallach.com. That is Dr. Wallach's website, where you can find all of Dr. Wallach's books as well, including his audios and the new flip chart, which he has been talking about. We do have the flip chart. I spent, Chef Norman was talking about baking and cooking with love. I put a lot of love into this, folks, making sure that we had high quality paper. It got a high quality binding at the top, and it's on a frame that you can set it on the desk and then just flip as you're going through the pages. So Dr. Wallach wanted me to make sure that everybody knows that the flip chart is available now. You can get the flip chart by calling Wellness Publications. It may or may not be on the website this morning, but it is available at 800-755-4656. So the flip chart, you definitely want to get a hold of. But most of all, folks, like Chef Norman was saying, if you can cook, you're not going to go hungry. And this is packed full of options that you can put together, staying and abiding by Dr. Wallach's Good Foods, Bad Foods. So again, get your own copy of the Good Foods, Bad Foods list. I think here in my home, there's at least 5 copies right now, one for every room, including the kitchen, where we are taking the recipes from Chef Norman and putting them on a plate, putting it all together and making sure that we're only putting the good stuff into our bodies. Now, Chef Norman, there is a question. What are your thoughts about rotisserie chicken?
A rotisserie chicken? Well, the secret is, and I worked at a grocery store, is that they rub them with oil. You don't have to rub them with oil. The only secret I would tell you the rotisserie is we'll watch the temperature. And my personal um best advice I can ever give you is salt the inside of the cavity, which means open up your chicken and throw a little salt and pepper in it. Salt and pepper, uh poultry spice on the outside, rub it real good, put it through the spike and put it in your rotisserie grill. And it would be the exact same, but the ones you are buying at the store are completely covered with oil. They make like this weird basing for it. But rotisserie chicken's good. You can cook chicken depending on the weight. I usually use an oven and I'll rub it, put salt and pepper in it by itself. No, nothing in the pan, in the oven on 350, and 45 to an hour, it's done. And then don't forget, after you've cooked your rotisserie grill and took all the meat off, hey, you want to do yourself a favor? Save the carcass, because later you can make soup or stock with it too.
And what would be your best recommendation for saving the carcass, and how long?
If you put it in a freezer bag, or I use like an old ice cream container, and I just shove it all in and put it in the freezer. And usually, if you're collecting all your kitchen scraps, like your onions, your celery ends, broccoli stems, your carrot ends, by a month's time, you'll be able to make probably 4 liters of stock every month.
So that would be like a bone broth vegetable stock.
Yes. And then I like to call it flavoring liquid, because
Mhm.
you can add it to anything to thin it down. You can add it to your rice to cook it with. It's just a
Excellent.
great little bonus from stuff you're already purchasing.
There you go. Stretch it, make it all last, no waste. I love it. But we do have a hand up. So, Ruth Ellen, you have a question for Chef Norman.
I do. If you could please give your YouTube channel again. Somebody, you said it fast and somebody's
Okay.
asking for it in the chat. And then I have another question after you do that.
Okay. It is Not Us Foods. So it's spelled how I'm saying, Not Us Foods. That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so is it NOT space US
No,
or
it's
it's
one,
together?
not us is one word.
All right. So notice.
Yes.
Oh,
But notice they spell also with IC. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not us is a little easier for people.
okay. Perfect. Thank you. And then somebody was asking about air fryers
Air fryers.
and
Here's the problem with your air fryer. If you're doing this before you ever started with us, you've already put oil in it.
mhm.
Good chances you'll never get that oil out of it. I had one for a little bit. I used nothing in it. Like let's say I was cooking a chicken breast. I just put the chicken breast in and just close it, and it worked out fine. It's a dry heat though. I do understand the complete convenience of it because it does cook food real fast. Now, I can't check the temperature inside of the machine, so I don't know how hot it is getting. I would recommend staying away from using butter, but if you wanted to put ghee or clarified butter in it, you could probably get away with that if you needed the oil. But when I was cooking with it, it worked perfectly fine just putting nothing in it. Just putting whatever meat you're cooking in, because once it cooked a little, the fat in it helped it cook even more.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Ruth Ellen. Great question. We get that a question about air fryers often. And AJ wants to know, what is your favorite meal to make?
My favorite meal to make?
Mhm.
Um, I'm really into cream sauces. My friends had a goat. They had a goat farm, and I just loved the sweetness of that milk brought. So I was always making cream sauces,
Mhm.
and that was really my favorite. But if I really don't have a favorite dish. I have more of like I like European and French culinary. Like I like how they just use raw food to make the ingredients. Like like I love the richness of like the cream sauces. I just love the richness of butter. Anything that really has a lot of butter and salt in it is really what I enjoy the most.
Well, and you can pour that over meat. You can pour it over
You
vegetables. You can,
pasta, you can make scalloped potatoes with it. You can make lots and lots. Yeah, yeah, cream sauce is probably one of my favorite things. If I had to do a comfort food, I would make just a basic cream sauce, saute some shallots and onions, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of flour in there, and then just pour your milk in and just reduce it down. And it's just velvety, lovely.
excellent. And we have AJ who has a question coming in from one of the platforms. AJ?
Yeah.
Hey, Chef, I definitely love your style.
Thank you.
um, so the question is, has Chef cooked cauliflower pizza? But my uh, twist to that question is, what's your favorite pizza, gluten free? Is it going to be a combination of different flours, or like a cauliflower, different vegetable base? What's the best way to do it?
So I've used a lot of them, and the one that I feel is the most best, like the easiest, like foolproof is there is a kit of gluten-free pizzas made by Bob Red Mills, and that one is the best one. It's just when it says 2 tablespoons of oil, just melt your butter and put it in. Now the problem is with making your own pizza dough is you can do it by hand, but I have a KitchenAid mixer, and it has changed my life for making doughs or making any kind of batters. You just can't overbeat them. But yeah, like I use a kit because it's easy. Um, but I usually like making my own dough with yeast, and then you can try with different types of yeast. There's active yeast and there's fresh yeast and there's fast rising yeast. So it really depends on what you like. My only preference is if you make the dough and you want your dough to be like to replicate real dough, is to roll it out on whatever you're going to cook it on and let it sit there. And it will rise up a bit, and then you'll pack it down and then add your sauce and your cheese. For condiments on it, like I just like bruschetta. Like I just tomatoes, onion, and garlic. And then I switch the cheese up. Like Gouda is always a nice cheese that I've always loved, and Havarti as well. And that really changes it a little, and then on a little coarse pink sea salt on the top. Bam, you're in love.
You're making me hungry.
Yeah.
The other
Sorry.
quick question is, what's your thoughts on the carnivore diet?
The carnivore diet, I've tried it. I was having a problem where I was eating too much carbs, like rice and potatoes, and I went strictly just to eating steaks, and it gave me more energy. And I think it's because I was eating less and the meat was actually filling me. So I wasn't overdoing it. And the carnivore diet is good. You're cutting out a lot of all the bad foods. Just don't burn your steak. And I would stick more, like if you're eating steak every day, I would switch it up, maybe eat some liver. You can eat gizzards. I'm not a fan of them. I don't like hearts. I don't like the kidneys, but I'm really into liver and I'm really into steak. I would say try it. As long as you're getting your 90, I don't see why you'll probably definitely feel benefits and you'll probably lose weight.
Yeah, I don't mean to take up all your time.
That's okay.
But because of you and Ryan, I tried making liver the other day.
Yes.
And it just reminded me of a bad childhood experience. Can you help us out on how to make liver properly?
Yes, that has been a big thing for me. I honestly didn't know how to cook it until I actually got to chef school. And when I did start learning how to cook it good, I used to work at a restaurant called Zeller's in the restaurant inside the store. And we used to have to close down every Tuesdays on senior nights because it just got too slammed. Like I'd be cooking lots of liver. The secret to liver, two things. If you don't like the taste, you can soak it in milk before you cook it. Okay. Another thing is if you're cooking it whole, try and slice it up and batter it. And when you batter it with gluten-free flour, throw in the spices that you like. I like cumin, takes the taste a little bit out, paprika, and garlic powder. And because it's small pieces, it doesn't take long to cook. So lots of butter, you put your liver in, and it will probably be done in about 5 to 7 minutes. And liver is one of those things that if you overcook it, you might as well pull your like it just tastes like shoe leather. Like it's bad. It is a little bit of a technique, and the way you want to go is cook it under, not over. Right? So if you're cooking it over, yes, it will bring you right back to your childhood of eating that shoe leather, and you will not like it, and it's not good. When you cook it right, it melts in your mouth like butter. And it's so smooth and velvety. And if you're having a problem just eating the liver, you should try pate, where you just cook it a little and then you puree it with a bunch of onions and carrots, and then it's like smooth, and then you can cook it again inside a ramekin in a water bath in your oven, bring it up to temperature, and it's like spreading butter on crackers and that. I am making another video of pate, but I'll try and get it out as soon as I can too. And maybe I will cook liver again and show you. But on our YouTube and our Instagram, I definitely have cooked liver many times and show you how to do it.
I'm glad to discover your page. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for answering my questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, AJ. And back to, you had mentioned to cook it under, not over, and you're talking about undercooked and overcooked, right?
Yeah. The thing with cooking is you only get better over time.
Mhm.
And it's like cooking steaks. Like when I first started cooking steaks, I was scared and intimidated. You work at the keg. Unfortunately, I'm making 300 steaks a night. I don't want my management or being fired because you have like 16 steaks or 20 steaks come back. Like the way it would work is if you had 2 steaks come back, you're rotated out. You're cooking French fries or something, or making salads. So it took me many years to learn how to cook these, but with time, you will successfully learn. And undercooking's better. Like when I mean undercooking, liver you can undercook, steak you can undercook, chicken, pork, fish you don't want to, and those will cause problems. So yeah, liver I would say cook under. Like it looks like it's undercooked in the pan, but it will continue to keep cooking because the pan is hot. So it's better to pull it before it gets too rubbery, chewy, not good. I know exactly when everyone explains that to me. I had the same problem for years. I disliked liver, disliked it, and it brought me right back to my childhood dream, like nightmare of sitting at my dinner table with my grandparents eating liver. Like, ugh. So I do know where he's coming from.
I've had some really good liver and some not so really good liver, so I understand as well. Now, just another question about clarification of the book. Edition 2, does it still have all of the recipes of edition 1?
Yes.
Just more?
Yes,
Okay.
just more. And we didn't alphabetize the index. We did make a mistake there. And then we added another index that broke it down by ingredients.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. I think I have edition 1, so I've got to get edition 2. Definitely. And then we have question over here from Gary. He says, what is a good breakfast? So what is Chef Norman's favorite breakfast?
I'm going to go back to Dr. Wallach. Uh, if you could eat 25 eggs, it could be good. But I like eggs. Avocado's a great mix to throw in. Um, Lately, I've been across the board. So usually I have eggs some kind of style, usually scrambled or poached. And I love over easy eggs. And so eggs is guaranteed breakfast. I love eggs. Um Usually whatever I cooked the night before, right? Like if I cooked a little bit of rice or a little bit of potatoes, I would heat that up, maybe jazz it up with if it's rice, I would dice some onions and do a fried rice with my scrambled eggs in the middle of it, and then mix it all together.
Mhm.
Um, and if let's say we had potatoes, I would probably just cook my eggs over easy and then heat my potatoes in the same pan and add a little bit of cheese to it. And pancakes. Everybody loves pancakes. They're very easy to make. The recipe's in the book. It's super, super easy. And yeah, I just have to say eggs, and a tea or coffee is what I usually have. I don't try and go so big on breakfast because I feel it slows you down a little bit at the beginning of the day to process all that food. But if you have the time, hey, you eggs is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I know whenever we were raising our own chickens and we had dozens of eggs a day, I ate quite a bit of eggs. And we've had some recent communications from somebody who refuses to believe that somebody can eat 6 eggs a day, or even, 2 or 3 twice a day. And it's like,
Yeah,
one,
that's
it's an affordable option when it comes to food. It's got your protein in there. It's got the good cholesterol in there. And you cook it right, you're not going to kill that good cholesterol. And I don't know about you, but you do some soft boiled eggs and you mix up those yolks, slice them in half, mix up the yolks, put in some butter and some seasoning and make them into angel eggs instead of deviled eggs. And I could
yeah,
easily put away a dozen.
yeah. I could
Easily.
eat I could eat a dozen eggs a day. Yeah,
Yeah.
and when I did have it's funny. I did have chickens when I lived out in I built a cabin and I decided to live out there for a few months, and my chickens were my only friends, and I ate eggs every day, and I really thought I'd get like sick of it, but it took 3 months of eating like 6 eggs, 8 eggs a day. And because I treated my chickens real well, they started laying double the amount of eggs. So when I hit 18 eggs a day by like 3 months, I was a little tired of them. But you're right. You add butter, you add salt, you add paprika. It just changes the texture of the eggs. And I would have to say eggs have saved my life.
Mhm.
They've been cheap most of my life and available. And I've been eating them for a long, long time. And yeah, I love eggs. I will
Yes.
say.
Excellent. And then we have a question from Anne. Any suggestions for milk and cream substitutes for people that are lactose intolerant?
Oh, I've tried the almond milk. Um, uh, it's a tough one, but it depends what you're trying to do. Where if it is milk in like pancakes or like in a recipe, you can just replace it with water. It's really just to keep it's just to mix everything together. It will change a little different. When it calls for buttermilk, that's a different like or heavy cream. That's when it really but if it's water, I mean if it's milk, which 2% or 1%, or if you drink skim, like it's almost like drinking water. To
Yeah.
me, right? I've so yeah, substituting it. Let me. I'm just trying to think in my head where it would have to be essential to be milk instead of water. Yeah, I can go through a few examples. Like if you're making an omelet, you don't have to put milk. You can just water or nothing.
Mhm.
Same thing if you're doing like French toast, breads, you can use water. Um, where you might run into challenges is obviously puddings. Puddings, you'd
Mm.
run into the most problems. Um, it wouldn't have that rich flavor. As you know, my favorite dish is just boiling down cream till it becomes a thick sauce and adding cold butter to it. So yeah, I'd really need to know what they're talking like what they're trying to replace it with. What are they trying to bake or cook? And then I'd be able to give them a better example or tell them that it's good luck because there's some things you can't substitute for, and there is a lot of things you can.
And there is lactose-free milk. That's what I use. So I just use lactose-free milk, whole milk, because I want all that good fat in it,
Yep.
that natural fat. Fat does not create fat, folks. So, and then we've got some more comments here. AJ saying that your mayo recipe has been well received by his clients. So folks, most mayonnaise recipes include oil. Chef Norman's does not. So you definitely want to get the book just for the mayonnaise. Because I like to use mayonnaise. It makes my sandwiches, gluten-free bread, not dry. So that was been something that somebody's like, well, I can't live without my mayo. I was like, you just make your own mayo and don't use oil. So I love the fact that you included that as well. And folks, we're coming up to the end of our program today, and there's so much more that we could be talking about and bringing to you that I know we are going to be bringing more to you. That's my hope. Just planting that seed, Chef Norman.
Yes,
Um,
yes. We can
as
definitely. There is a lot of questions about food, and I see everyone's concerns, and if you want to reach out to me or my team of people who cook, Notice Foods on Instagram. I do answer the DMs, and I do try my best to do videos that people are interested and want to know.
Excellent. And Patty is saying she received her book yesterday, so she's excited to get started cooking without the bad foods. So folks, we are here with Chef Norman Goodies, who wrote the book, Dr. Wallach's Cooking Without the Bad Foods. Thank you so much, Chef Norman, for being here with us today. We just greatly appreciate you and putting together a cookbook that actually abides by Dr. Wallach's Good Foods, Bad Foods list and making it so that there are options. Because a lot of people are like, well, then what do you eat? Folks, and
We
then
eat
the latest
everything.
edition, there's 500 recipes of things that you can eat. So there you go. If you go hungry, it's your own fault. Thank you so much again. And we look forward to future, as we will be back here with Chef Norman Goodies. And if I could get my co-hosts up with me, that would be greatly appreciated. I know there were some questions we didn't get to, and we are definitely going to be taking note of them, of things that we can address and use as topics for the future. So thank you so much, everybody, for bringing those questions and comments. We love it because then, one, we know people are listening, and two, it lets us know what people are wanting to know about, which helps us to provide a program that is bringing information that is, of question and useful to each of us each and every day. Well, today I have with me Ruth Ellen Sanchez, my executive production manager, as she helps make everything go smoothly and organized. We have her executive, my executive, her assistant production manager, AJ, who is making sure that all of the channels are streaming and getting the account set up so that we can be there. So thank you so much for that, AJ. We have Marilyn. Well, Marilyn has, we call her fingers because she has some speedy typing fingers, and she is putting dictation into the chat, which is one of the great reasons for being here live with us on Daily with Doc, where we are here most Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays from 12 to 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. So again, that's 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time here on Daily with Doc Zoom.com. And we have Albert, who is helping let everybody into the room, keeping an eye on the cameras, also keeping an eye on the chat, and making sure that we are keeping this as a safe place. And when I say safe place, it's because we are a resource to an amazing community of individuals who have found Dr. Wallach's message and just not just found his message, but benefited the message so that they have this passion for people and share the message with others. We want to make sure that if you were invited to this program by somebody specific, that you get back with them. If you have questions on anything related to nutrition, the good foods, bad foods list, what people are taking to make sure they get that buzzword that you hear, the 90 essential nutrients, get back with the person that shared this program with you, because they will have those answers for you. Now, if you have never spoken to anybody about the Daily with Doc show, Dr. Wallach, longevity, 90 essential nutrients, and you would like to get in contact with a certified holistic health coach, you may call our call team at 855-949-3377. Again, that's 855-949-3377. Or you can go to our website, again, for people who are not currently working with anybody, are not current longevity customers. We have that contact option on our website, and that's DailywithDoc.com, where you can find the replays of this program, or on the website, you can find the replays of the program. But the contact then sends me a message, and then we make sure that we get answers to you. We do have a high volume, so if you don't get an instant answer, please bear with us, as more and more people are finding the benefit of being more conscious of what they put in their mouths and filling those gaps so that there aren't the deficiencies that the body will get if you're just eating a quote unquote good diet. Folks, it goes beyond a good diet. We are here as Daily with Doc because Dr. Wallach found there's more to just eating good. There's 90 essential nutrients to help the body thrive. Until next time,
Wait,
thank
one
you so much
second.
for joining us.
1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rebecca, but I
Go for
want
it.
to make sure that we give our sincere thanks and gratitude to our veterans on Veterans Day today. We
Yes.
are so grateful for your sacrifice because none of us would have the lives that we have here or in any of the countries that we go to without our veterans. So thank you from all of us here.
Yes. See, that's why she's the executive production manager, folks. Make sure that I don't forget anything. And if I do, she's got my back. And she's got all of your back too, folks, making sure that we are providing a program that has useful information coming from people that know what they're talking about. Also, tomorrow, for those of you who are watching and watching this, before Sunday, if you're in the Southern California area, and more specifically Huntington Beach, within driving distance, I will be there with Chef Norman and pharmacist Ben in Huntington Beach for a lecture with pharmacist Ben Fuchs. So if you're interested in getting information about that lecture, please make sure that you go to the website, use that contact option, send us an email, and I can get you more information about that lecture as well. Tickets are limited. So I think there's only about 20 tickets left. So if you're interested, you want to make sure that you get in contact with us and get your ticket right away. So we will see you next week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We've got all the days filled for next week with some exciting new information that we have not brought to you yet on this program. So everybody, have a fantastic day. And don't forget to say thank you to a veteran, because my hat's off to the veterans and all of their sacrifices and the families of the veterans, because they also are part of that sacrifice. Bye for now.
Bye.